I leapt off the bridge. The millisecond my hands left the rail, it was an instantaneous regret for my actions. I fell over 200 feet. I hit the water, shattering 3 vertebrae immediately, severing my spinal cord by 2 millimeters. And in the water, I was drowning. And a sea lion kept me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. And it was a miracle that I got to live. I think people out there don't realize, who are in suicidal crisis, that suicide does not take the pain away. It passes it on to everybody left behind. And people don't think of that in the midst of a suicidal crisis because they're in so much pain.
Yes.
So if we can reach them before they get to that pain and express this to them when they get to that pain, they can remember it and go, wait a minute, this is not the answer.
Yes. Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. I have an amazing guest on today. He is the man who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he's here to tell his story about it. And the reason that we have him on this show is many, many reasons, which you will hear me say in the beginning of this show. But what I'm going to do is give you a formal introduction to him prior to him coming on about his bio. And I'm going to read it because it's extensive and it's powerful. And he is an amazing man. And I very strongly suggest that you stay and listen. Kevin Hines is a storyteller. He is a best-selling author, a global public speaker, and an award-winning documentary filmmaker. In the year 2000, Kevin attempted to take his life by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Many factors contributed to his miraculous survival, including a sea lion, which kept him afloat until the Coast Guard arrived. Kevin now travels the world sharing his story of hope, healing, and recovery while teaching people of all ages the art of wellness and the ability to survive pain with true resilience. His motto is "Be here tomorrow and every day after that." In 2016, Mental Health America awarded Kevin their highest honor, the Clifford W. Beers Award, for his efforts to improve the lives and attitudes toward people with mental illnesses. Previously, he was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by the National Council of Behavioral Health in partnership with Eli Lilly. Kevin has also been awarded the SAMHSA as a Voice Awards Fellow and an award winner, an achievement winner by the U.S. Veterans Affairs, and received over 30 U.S. military medals as a civilian. That's unprecedented as far as I know. Kevin sat on the boards of the International Bipolar Foundation, the Bridge Rail Foundation, and the Mental Health Association of San Francisco, and on the Survivors Committee of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Previously, he was a board member of the Northern California chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and was a 2-term member of San Francisco's Mental Health Board. He has spoken in congressional hearings alongside Patrick Kennedy in support of the Mental Health Parity Bill. He continues his policy as an ambassador to the National Council for Behavioral Health. In the summer of 2013, Kevin released his best-selling memoir titled Cracked But Not Broken: Surviving and Thriving After a Suicide Attempt. He is currently producing a documentary entitled Suicide: The Ripple Effect. I believe this is already done. Kevin's will to live and stay mentally well has inspired people worldwide. His compelling story has touched diverse global audiences with colleges and universities, high schools, corporations, clergy, military, clinicians, health and medical communities, law enforcement organizations, and various industries. And Alison Answers. Thousands have communicated to Hines that his story helped save their lives. He has reached millions with his story. His story was featured in the 2006 film The Bridge by the film director and producer Eric Steele. Kevin believes in the power of the human spirit and the fact that you can find the ability to live mentally well. His mantra, life is a gift, and that is why they call it the present. Cherish it always. What you can expect on this show is you are going to meet an amazing man. You're going to hear an amazing life story that you will not be able to unhear. It will change you forever. You will hear a story of resilience. You will hear a story of the miraculous divine hand of God, and that we are all here for a purpose. And you will hear a man dispel all the myths of suicide, dying by suicide, which is a cause very dear to my heart. And I am honored to no end to hear Kevin tell us his story, his resilience, the miracles that surround this man's life and also are possible for us. So without any further ado, Mr. Kevin Hines. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alice from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. I am here today with Kevin Hines, and most of you probably know who he is. This man is about to change your life. And I'm going to use my timer right here because I'm not going to waste his time. And I'm going to just tell you a quick blurb of what you can expect because I think it'll be valuable for you to hear it. He is an amazing man. He is the man who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. So here we go. What I want you to know, what you can expect from Kevin is that you're going to hear the most amazing story of your life that you won't be able to unhear. You'll hear a story of the miraculous, of, I believe, the supernatural hand of God that is evidence to us of our purpose, of our value, of the meaning of our life. And Kevin is a living soul that is showing us by the evidence of the life he lives and the story he's going to tell you. You're going to meet him as an amazing man. You're going to then understand your purpose. You're going to hear that amazing story. And then you're going to be able to walk away as a human being, better able to manage your own psychic pain, better able to see others, really see them, and to see their pain, even behind stoicism and a smile, and you will see things differently. And to me, the art of seeing things differently is incredible. I have a threefold purpose in having Kevin on. One is personal to me. And the purpose is for me personally, as a woman who is living through, growing through a death by suicide of my own precious husband. It's to speak to anyone out there who is going through that, and to have you, and to be evidence for you that the sun will shine again, that you will live again, and that it will be by decision. It's also to validate your incredible pain. And it is also to tell you that it's not your fault and that you also don't have to blame anyone else. So I want you to understand that. The second thing is to understand professionally. That's my other purpose, is that having counselors that work for me and owning counseling centers, I think anybody who's helping anyone out there needs to have a better, wider view and an understanding of how to really help people. We've been doing this kind of mental health thing for, like, in a kind of, how would I say it? Like a mediocre way, labeling people and not understanding more about how to have a resilient and happy life. So I want professionals to be able to also learn a different way to ask the questions and to ask that and to be insightful into seeing things. And it's a worldwide mission for me that I believe that I share with Kevin, and this is way more than 3 minutes. And basically, I want to change the face of how we see suicide. So without any further ado, Kevin, you are a bright light in a dark world, and I'm so honored to have you. And I wanted to start off by, first of all, I'd love to hear anything you want to say, but also I'd like to start off with that kind of like setting the stage, like in a movie, that, we hone in on those 24 to 48 hours of your life prior to the decision to die by suicide, that all of those precursors, and I know there's a whole life of precursors, but for you to be able to share with all of us so that we can see it more clearly when we're just living our life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Alison, thank you for having me on Alison Answers. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here with you, and thank you for being patient with me. I think it's important to note before we go any further that I think last week when we were supposed to have this call, I couldn't do it. I was having a really tough mental health day. I was struggling very deeply with kind of what I call brain pain and depression. And you were so kind enough to say, let's postpone and let's do it another time. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being so kind and compassionate in that situation, because I will tell you, I have had experiences where I've been booked to present and had a hard time mentally and had to postpone and was met with the opposite reaction. And so while that is rare, it has happened. And I'm very grateful to you for that. So thank you.
What I love about that happening, not that you are in pain, what I do love about it is that you're a representation of how to be honest. And that's part of your lovely wife, mentioned that also. That's part of recovery, that you faced it, you told the truth about it, when we're having a hard day. And that's your whole message. So I feel like it actually is great that it happened, not to you, I don't mean. But you know
Right.
What else happened on my end? And I just want to say it for listeners too. On my end, you answered the phone, we spoke, and you just were real. You were exactly where you were. And what I realized when I hung up, this is important. I hung up and it was on my mind. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to be real with you, Kevin, in front of everyone. If you want me to cut it out, I will. But
No.
basically, I was thinking, oh, dear God, if anything happens to this man, and I was thinking, I got to get in touch with him. But then I was thinking, oh, he's such a busy man. He has, this could be like weird, I don't want to bother him. But you see, my point in that is that when it comes to this kind of thing, there's no barrier to reaching out and saying, are you okay?
Always reach out.
Yeah.
Always reach out. If you have the inclination that someone's in that kind of pain, even if it's temporary or a depressive state and not necessarily a suicidal crisis, always reach out, always reach in and say, hey, is there anything you need from me? Is there any way I can help you? What can I do for you? Do you need a shoulder to lean on or an ear to listen? I mean, that could change the state of someone's life. That's the catalyst to changing their existence.
Yes. I'll tell you something that's incredible, that I'm changed because of that experience. Like, I feel like that experience of you not being able to come on, us having the conversation, made me realize that I was focused on how I'm like less than and can't offer what I have. And we all have stuff to offer. And I'm a therapist, for God's sakes. Like, we have stuff to offer, every one of us. And that's why I feel like the beginning 24 hours of your story is so poignant. And I know I promised myself I wasn't going to overtalk because I'm such a talker, but I just want to say one thing to you, that just a thing. And I want people to hear this, is that, the anniversary of my husband's death, people are like, are you okay? And you know what it really is? And I'm going to cry, but it's okay. Literally, it's the month before, it's the days before that are approaching the actual day that I'm like, oh my God, what could I have said? What could be different? How could I have stopped this? And like, to know, when you tell your story about the bus and I just feel like if we can stop it by somebody seeing someone, yes, like I didn't even see it. And this is what I do for a living. We help people all the time with this. And I didn't see it. I never thought he would do it. So that's why I just think that time is so powerful that you share. Is that okay with you?
I really appreciate that. And Alison, I'm so sorry for your most immeasurable and unrelenting loss. And you live forever with that pain and that struggle after someone you love this much dies by their hands. I've lost 18 people that I care deeply about to suicide, and that's 18 too many. One is one too many. And what I'll say is this, Alison. I'm of the belief that when we lose someone this way, we need to make a choice to celebrate them, to celebrate the beauty they were, the love they were, the hope they were, to hold dear and never forget the light that they exuded when they were still here with us, and to choose to hold immeasurable gratitude for the very little time we had with them.
Yes.
I think if you can hold gratitude for a loss that great, for the moments you had with that person or those people, you will never forget them. They'll always hold a place in your heart. And then you want to celebrate their life on their birthday, the day they were brought into this world without that pain.
Mm.
And do it with family and friends who love them just as much as you do. And on that day, Alison, you're only allowed to talk about the good times.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's very important, to have that one day of the year on their birthday where you truly honor their memory with people who cared for them. And when you get around in a circle with those people, you all share your favorite memories of that person. What an incredible healing journey people would go on if they just decided to do that every birthday of everyone lost by suicide. I think that would be absolutely incredible if we took a kind of a national look on taking that action. Think about all the lives every year that could be celebrated in that way.
Wow.
It would be really powerful and really beautiful. On that note, the 24 to 48 hours before I leapt off the bridge you see behind me to attempt to die by my hands, I really came to a place in I believed I was useless, worthless, and had no value. I was hiding from my family and friends the true severity of the symptoms I was having, which I didn't know they were really symptoms. I just knew I was losing my mind. And I was in the most despair I'd ever experienced. And I was hearing voices, auditory hallucinations, seeing things, visual hallucinations that no one else could see or hear, telling me I had to die. I always say, Alison, that I never wanted to die by suicide off the Golden Gate Bridge. I believed I had to, and those are two categorically different things.
Yes.
Wanting something and believing you have no other choice. You want to go get a slice of pizza. You choose whether it's pepperoni or cheese. You don't need to. You don't have to. In this situation at the Golden Gate Bridge, I believe there was absolutely no other option. What I try to teach people today all around the world is that here are, a plethora of other options besides taking your life.
Yes.
Here are some of the things you can do to fight to thrive, not just survive. And some of those things involve building a very strict routine of therapy, education, exercise, eating anti-inflammatory foods, most meals, most days. There are so many things you can do that are science-backed, evidence-informed to change your brain, to change your life, as the great Dr. Daniel Amen said in his book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. There's so many things you can do to shift your perspective if you so believe you have a chance. And one of the things I love to teach people, I have this on my YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Kevin Hines. There's a mental health hacks playlist. And I think now we're up to almost 40 mental health hacks that anyone can learn and implement into their daily activities so that they're more mentally fit, more resilient, and more mentally strong. And the answers are out there if you search for them. And if you're willing to put in the time, energy, effort, and hard work for things to change, they will. Hard work, because nothing good ever came without it. And I think people forget that.
Yes.
I think people forget that, everybody kind of wants this Uberification of life right now. It's why people are so obsessed with things like Ozempic and all those other things, which is fine, each their own, right? I get that, but I'm saying there are ways that are tried and true where you dedicate a portion of your life to a piece of your mission, and you put forth that time, effort, energy, and hard work, and things will absolutely change. I think people out there don't realize, who are in suicidal crisis, they don't realize that suicide does not take the pain away. It passes it on to everybody left behind, as you well know.
Yes.
It makes it wholly impossible for things to ever get better.
Yep.
And people don't think of that in the midst of a suicidal crisis because they're in so much pain.
Yes.
So if we can reach them before they get to that pain and express this to them when they get to that pain, they can remember it and go, wait a minute, this is not the answer.
Yes. And just to your point about all of the stuff, because I've heard all the stuff that you say about, working out, about all the different ways to keep our mind healthy, right? Our brain healthy. But what I want to say is very interesting to me, and I just knew it to be true, that as I watched over the 6 weeks before my husband died by suicide, I watched his intake of food was only sugar. He was not drinking water. I was looking at him going, I feel like his brain, and I was thinking it, I feel like his brain is like going toxic. Like I was watching it. And because it just, because you're looking maybe for a dopamine rush. So like sugar, maybe it'll help, and it's like, yeah.
Think of this. Okay. Mm-hmm. We can battle all day about what is healthy eating and what is not. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own opinion. Mm-hmm. There are two types of food in the world.
Yes.
Inflammatory and anti-inflammatory.
Yes.
In anti-inflammatory and inflammatory foods. The inflammatory foods attack your gut, which attacks your brain. Your gut creates all your body's serotonin and dopamine, affecting your mental well-being. If you are feeding your gut only processed or poisonous foods, you're damaging your brain's functionality at the cellular level. If you are eating anti-inflammatory foods that come from whole foods or the ground, Mother Earth, or lean meats and vegetables, or poultry, or even lean porks or fish, and green vegetables, you are feeding your gut and your brain the most healthy types of food that will benefit your brain's functionality at the cellular level. That is a fact. That is a scientific fact. Now, you have to be aware of eating disorders, disordered eating, all that, and how that comes into play and how that affects people when you talk about these things. But from a pure science-based issue, those are the two types of foods that either enhance your brain or affect your brain negatively.
Yes. What
will you choose to move forward? Now, that's easy for me to say and harder for people living in America in food deserts to do anything about.
Yeah.
Which is why in the food deserts of America, the crime rates are so high. Yeah. The mental health crises are so relevant and real. Because their brains are being so terribly affected by the food they're consuming, because it's the only food they can consume. People in impoverished areas of all walks of life, quite frankly. And so we need to do something about that. And that's a long-term journey of changing the FDA to shift how it's feeding us poisonous foods. It's my understanding that there are something like 30,000 ingredients in food that Europe has banned that we allow in our foods, because they're poisonous to the brain and the body, yet we allow them here in America. And the reality is we allow them here in America because they're poisoning our bodies. And then we go and we go get medical care. We're given medications for that care. And I'm sorry, but the big pharma has a lot to do with that. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact.
It's a fact, and it's criminal as far as I'm concerned.
They're poisoning us to take medications, to make us need those medications. Now, let's stop right there for a moment. I take medications for bipolar depression.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But if I do not, I hallucinate all day. Mm-hmm. And I can't function while hallucinating.
Yes.
There's some advocacy to medications, and I can't deny that because I've lived that life. I have been the guy that has come off medications, not told anybody, and had a complete mental breakdown, wound up right back in the psych ward multiple times.
Yes.
So it's a catch-22. It's a problem that can't be solved overnight, and it's something we have to fight for. Go back to the 24 to 48 hours before my attempt. When I got to the Golden Gate Bridge to take my life, the voices in my head were saying, "Jump now, you're worthless, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're useless, I hate you. This is inevitable." Inevitable. And that's what I want to teach people, that that's not true.
Yes.
Suicidal ideations are the greatest liars we know.
Yes.
Don't listen to them.
Yes.
Don't listen to them. No matter the pain you might be in, no matter how desperate your situation, no matter if you don't have a dollar to your name, suicide is not the answer. Keep fighting.
Yes.
Because around that corner could come someone that could help you. Around that corner could come your ability to shift your perspective and put in some more hard work to get out of that situation, whatever situation you're in. If you're in an abusive or neglectful situation, you will get out of it someday to live a brighter and more beautiful life, but only if you so believe.
Yes.
But keep going, keep fighting, because you are beautiful. You're meant to be here until your natural end, never to die by your hands. Suicide is never the solution to your problem. It is the problem. Suicidal ideations are the greatest liars we know. Don't listen to them.
Do you mind if I just throw something in there? Because I think is incredible. Like what you're saying is so important. And I feel like and I don't know what your exact situation is, but I know up until the day that my husband, I know, believed that the only answer was death. Up until that day, because we were so close, he was telling me what was going on in his mind, and he would wake me up at like 4 a.m. and he would go, "Alison, listen, I know I'm 99.9% sure that you're divorcing me." I'm like, "I'm not. I love you." But I think all of those lies were coming. They were all precursors building up to what was going to be this, and I think he was having those suicidal ideations in between, but it was like this evidence of reasons to do it that were also lies, like they were delusions about his current circumstance, of his value and all of that, which just is part of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's the paranoid delusions that I would experience and have experienced for the better part of 2 decades. I don't like any of my symptoms, but it's my least favorite symptom, because the paranoid delusions tell you that alternate realities are real.
Yes.
And they're terrifying.
Yes.
They're terrifying. For me, it would come in the face of, I would think there was a sniper on the roof trying to kill me. And I've had those thoughts since I was a child, if I really play it back. For me, it would be, there's going to be someone in the audience that's going to kill me, or all of the audience is going to rush the stage and kill me. And I'd be at speeches in front of 5,000 people, and I'd go, "Well, I'll give them a good show before I die." That's how I would have to get through it. What I learned about paranoid delusions from a doctor friend of mine, is to use logic to destroy them. So what I would do is I would say, let's say the hallucination, the paranoia was, these 5,000 people are going to simultaneously rise, rush the stage, and end my life. What I would say to myself is, "Kevin, of the thousands upon thousands of times that you've thought this paranoid delusion to be true, how many times have you died?" 0.
Yeah.
0. How many times has anyone actually tried to kill you? 0. So logic states that it's not going to happen now.
Yes.
And that's how I come out of that cycle of psychosis.
Yes.
That's how I come back to reality. That will work for people who have mild to moderate paranoid delusions.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't necessarily work for people who have severe psychosis. But we need to reach them upstream and get them to understand that before they get to that place, if they understand to use that tool and technique, so that when they're slipping, they know, wait a minute, logic states that's not going to happen. That's in a distorted reality and cannot harm me. you know?
Yes, it's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could just keep rolling forever on this. I want to so much, like, and when you describe that, I just want to tell you, I appreciate your honesty about that. It's so good. I remember my husband, he was in the military for 21 years. So he would say, Alison, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so afraid. And I'm scared I'm going to be homeless. I don't know what's happening to my mind. And he hadn't been like that the whole time, we were married. So then he would look at me and go, sometimes I look at you and suddenly like you're an enemy and I don't know what's happening to me. So, we were trying to figure out ways to, like, I asked him to write a letter to himself, when he's in that place, and then I could hand it to him, that he could see it's in his own handwriting and that it's not true if I see this, like ways to bring reality to, but I still never thought, and because it was so fast that it happened, like it was 6 weeks of just like all of a sudden him not like thinking straight or whatever. But anyhow, I didn't mean to make this talk. I'm not trying to make it about me and about that. It's an
important conversation.
Yeah.
It's important to hear your side of the story and what happened to you and your husband, because what happened to your husband is happening to so many American men and women who are married, who need their spouse needs to know to take action today, not tomorrow, not today. Do something now to reach them. And not didn't try. You tried so hard, and it still ended up the way it was. But at least this way they have a head start to go, maybe I need to look into what's going on with my loved one.
Hey, guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it.
Let's talk about something you said that I really think people need to understand, that I rarely talked about on podcasts, and that I think people don't quite comprehend. Suicide is not selfish.
No.
To be selfish, you have to know you're hurting other people and to be doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. Selfish people do things on purpose because they know it benefits them. Suicidal people are not selfish. They are some of the most courageous people on the face of the planet. It just happens to be a dangerous courage. And that dangerous courage can lead to their death. They are trying to fight the single worst pain they've ever experienced. What they don't understand is that suicide is not the answer, it is the problem. And so instead of suicide, what they must do is turn to anyone willing to hear them and say four simple but very effective words: I need help now. Those four words they must keep saying until one person is willing to answer the call. So when you are suicidal and you are thinking these thoughts, the two things you must do is find any mirror anywhere, and say, my thoughts don't have to become my actions. They can simply be my thoughts. They don't have to own, rule, or define what I do next. Thus, you never have to attempt or die in the first place. And the second thing you do is must turn to anyone willing to listen and say, I need help now. And you don't stop saying that to every person you come across until one person answers the call and is willing to sit with you for a moment and listen to your pain so you can survive it.
Let me ask you, so when you describe, if it's okay with you, when you describe getting on the bus, you describe canceling your classes, like I heard all that beginning, but how would you describe those 24 hours prior to feeling you had no other choice but to die? Because I want people to picture themselves on that bus.
I was hearing voices telling me I had to die. I had zero self-esteem, zero self-worth. My self-hatred and self-loathing knew no bounds. On the bus, on the way to the bridge, I just wanted someone to stop me and say, are you okay? Is something wrong, or can I help you? And I would have told them everything. I made a pact with myself that if one person says those things, I'll tell them everything. I'll beg them for help. Nobody did. Right up until the attempt, I wanted someone to stop me. I couldn't at the moment stop myself. Now, I recognize today that no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. But there is a world where compassion, love, empathy, and care could be in a little more of abundance to help people like me in that situation.
What would you suggest? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you see someone in active, potential, lethal emotional pain, do not.
How would they know that? How, what would
hands are in their head, they're crying their eyes out, they're struggling on the streets, they have a sign that says need money for food. Don't just walk by them. Walk up to them and say, what do you need from me in this moment? Maybe I can't give you money, but I can sit here and listen to your pain.
Yes.
I know that's nerve-wracking, but if someone on that bus had decided to interact with me in a positive way, I likely would have never leapt off that bridge.
Yes.
So consider, people listening and watching, that when you see someone in potential lethal emotional pain, instead of walking by them, around them, or over them, stop and say something, anything kind that you can think of.
Yes.
Anything compassionate and filled with empathy that you can ponder. Don't just go by them.
Yes.
Do something. You could be the catalyst to saving a life.
Yes, it's true. And you know what I think such a big thing is that I know for me, and even with what I do, when you see someone who's in a lot of pain or openly seeming like even somebody who's having hallucinations or something, people get afraid.
You're very afraid.
You know?
And it's understandable.
Yeah.
It's understandable. But, do your best to try.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it's a dangerous situation and you feel threatened, I get that.
Yeah.
If it's a situation where you see a young woman or man crying on the bus stop bench, something has just happened to that person.
Yes.
Something is hurting them deeply. As fellow human beings, how much does it cost us for a kind word?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, and the person who's even just walking by, like in a suit or whatever, or stoic, that, I mean,
like strong friends, strong people, the people that look so well.
Yeah.
There's a thing. So I will be releasing some videos pretty soon called How Are You Really? And what I'm going to be doing is traveling across the country and the globe in September and October, speaking around the world, talking to people on the street and at speaking engagements and saying, how are you today? And then saying, no, how are you really? and hoping that people will respond with what they're really going through. Because everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. And these How Are You Really sessions will open the eyes of people that love those individuals, that see these videos and recognize that everybody's hurting.
It's just that is amazing. And is there any way you can share just like the moments, like what happened? Because the miracle of what happened is so incredible. I know.
Yes, I'll briefly share what happened. So I leapt off the bridge. The millisecond my hands left the rail, it was an instantaneous regret for my actions. I fell over 200 feet. I hit the water, shattering 3 vertebrae immediately, severing my spinal cord by 2 millimeters. And in the water, I was drowning. And a sea lion kept me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. And this is Herbert the sea lion on my shirt. And the shirts are on our merch store at kevinhinestory.com/shop. And all the proceeds go to Zero Suicides to save lives. It was a miracle that I got to live. I'm grateful to the sea lion that saved my life. I call him Herbert because it's my favorite name besides Kevin.
That's my dad's name.
Is that your dad's name? Well,
yep.
I'll tell you a funny story. All around the world when I travel, and I say, are there any Herberts in the room? Nobody ever raises their hands.
Yes.
23 years, nobody raises their hands. Herbert has left the building, truly.
Yes.
But this is Herbert. He saved my life, and my spirit animal, if you will, kept me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. What an incredible journey. The doctor at the hospital, one of the foremost back surgeons in the world, was visiting the hospital for the day, saved my ability to stand, walk, and run. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan Levin. I'm so grateful to be alive, so grateful for every waking moment on this earth, and so grateful for you, Alison. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful to have you, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your wisdom. I really, really appreciate it. Hey guys, so after Kevin left the show, I wanted to share a few things with you just to elaborate on a lot of what we talked about. As we began to talk, there were so many incredible things that, the conversation became very just natural and flowed. And there were things that I wanted you to know about Kevin that I think are important for you to know as you walk away. One of the things, there were several miraculous moments that happened as Kevin was moving through that day. And upon his jump over the rail, one of the things that happened was there was someone crossing over the bridge that day whose friend was in the Coast Guard that happened to be working that area, the Golden Gate Bridge, that at that time. She called her friend, and the Coast Guard was then able to get to him quickly. The sea lion was circling him and beneath him, and he at first thought it was sharks. And what he did was, with the strength that he did have, he punched the sea lion, who continued to create buoyancy for him by circling underneath and keeping him alive and afloat until the Coast Guard got there. By the time he arrived to the hospital, he was able, like he had mentioned, that incredible surgeon just happened to be there. And it was a never performed surgery. It was never performed before. He is one in, it's like 99.9% chance that someone could live jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And of those who do, they are, they cannot, walk, run, and live life the way Kevin does. So the reason that I bring that up to you guys is I want you to understand that there is a divine presence that is really making things happen around us and in our lives that is destined to change the course of things that we don't even know what's happening behind the scenes. So I want you to understand that. What I do plan to do as another thing that Kevin had shared in different, things that he's talked about is that when he was on that bus, he was crying and he was clearly upset. He was sobbing and crying. And he describes these moments on the bus where he was, in this pain and no one looked at him. And that when he was on the bridge, a woman, approached him with a smile. She was wearing sunglasses and she may not have known, what he was going through, but he was crying and she asked him to take pictures of her, and he did. But the point is that in plain sight, we can be seeing things around us that we don't see. And it's not any of the people's faults. Sometimes people feel afraid of someone who's crying, or they feel we're taught maybe not to approach someone who's having a hard time because they need their space. And maybe you would feel embarrassed if you were crying on a bus and someone came up to you. But what I do want to say, everywhere I go, if I approach a cashier and they look sad, or I can see it, there's something wrong, I'll say to them, are you okay? You seem like something's bothering you. Like, are you all right? Like, I will ask the question. And, what do we run the risk of? Maybe going in someone's bubble that doesn't want you to. Okay. But what's the alternative? Suppose that person, you gave them hope that day. I have someone very close to me who just recently told me that they were thinking of ways to die by suicide. They were in their car and they were trying to make a decision. They were trying to decide how to do it. They felt that there was no hope in their life and they had an addiction and they didn't feel that they would ever be able to stop. And they just relapsed one more time and they just did not know what to do. And they felt that they wanted to die. And they got a text from someone who didn't know this. And it was a coworker who said to them, hey, I just want to tell you, how much you mean in my life. And this was somebody who is not even that person's friend. This was a person who was in a completely different age range than them. And it was a person who they worked in the same place with, but it was a person who pointed out to this guy what he means in this other person's life. And what ended up happening is that's the thing that made the person not consider dying by suicide. You just never know when you reach out. That one moment, I've heard story upon story upon story, that one moment where you could say that one little thing in the moment, even when there's so many stories that I've heard where people have had a gun in their mouth and then they looked up at a picture and they thought of their child, or somebody interrupted with a text or a call that made them remember and snap back to their reality in life. And what I want you to understand also, as written in Kayla Steckline, who lost her husband to suicide, she also talks about in her books, she was on my podcast as well. She talks about Fear Gone Wild. That's one of her books. And her other book is Building Back Beautiful. And what she describes is the suicide mind. And we have to remember, I have had, the thought that, God, what a relief it would be, and it's just that one moment, given the right moment with the wrong thing that you have available to yourself, the ability to do something impulsively or because you feel like you have to, or because you feel like it's the only option. I just want you to know that this is you can interrupt things like that by just giving more than you normally would, seeing things. So what if you're wrong? So what if the person's okay? I tell everyone at Lager Counseling Services that, when there's even a thought inside of you, even if you're cray-cray, you're not right, it's the person doesn't want to die by suicide, that you always err on the side of, you just throw everything out the window if it's a possibility. And it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to interrupt someone, and it's okay. And you're not going to introduce the idea to them. If you ask someone if they want to die, you're not giving them the idea of dying. So there's a few things I'm just going to say that are important for anyone who's listening, who knows someone who is down, or maybe not down, looks really strong, who never asks for help, who always gives help. Watch out for that one. Usually people love the way they want to be loved. And very often people who are giving a lot and there for others very, very often do not get a lot from others in return. And it's not because others don't care about them. It's because the person maybe doesn't even see themselves in the category of someone who should receive help. And I just want you to know, I mean, I have gone through that. So, look out for those people. But I want to tell you the way that the questions to ask, and it is very important to be direct. It is okay to ask someone if they want to kill themselves. Don't be shocked by that. It's okay to ask, are you thinking of killing yourself? And then another question is, what is the way, what is the plan? If they say yes, what is the plan that you're thinking about in killing yourself? And then the next question is, which you either know or you don't know, and you find out if they have the means to do it. But I want to throw something out there. If you hear someone saying that they want to do a certain thing, and let's say a gun or whatever it is, or a bridge or a train, or you want to know if they have access to those things. That's an important thing to know. Another thing is we also want to know, there's a fourth question that's we want to know if they intend to do it, like if they have intent. And if just because someone says no doesn't mean that they don't. But as you ask those questions, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, you ask all of those series of questions, it becomes more and more serious. Another thing to add into that layer of asking questions is that you want to know if the person is doing drugs or drinking, any alcohol, any mind or mood altering substances, or gambling or compulsively over or under eating, any kind of addiction. But anything that alters the mind will be something that can make someone do something that maybe they wouldn't do when their mind is not altered. So if you add all those components together, the risk becomes higher and higher. The risk is raised tremendously by a mind and mood altering drug. So the reason I tell you all of this is because I want you to be aware. If you do not feel equipped to do those things, you want to remember something else, is that asking the question, and then if they say yes, then they can also go into a professional's hands. You can bring them to a hospital. There's things to do to help them. So what we're going to have in this podcast is also all in the session notes. There'll be, the suicide hotline and the different things that you can do to make sure that you're safe. All of Kevin Hines' information is going to be in there. His YouTube channel, so you can go in there and find hacks to be able to protect yourself and others. And what I want to say to you is that there's different reasons that people want to die by suicide. But I think the number one thing that happens, I see it as a takeover of the brain. Something takes over and the thoughts are not rational. And it can just be for a very, very short few minutes that those irrational thoughts are there. And if the person has a propensity for impulsivity, that also increases the risk. And if they have something that can produce a quick result, like jumping, like shooting themselves, like the different things that can produce something quickly, it's without extra time, that is also something to consider. So what I say to you, anyone out there who is potentially having just a really hard time and you feel down, one of the things that we do is we think about chain analysis, and that our brain, it follows like a path. It's like popcorn. So as you're having these different thoughts that are going pop, 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 the first thought leads to the next thought, that leads to the next thought, that leads to the next thought. And if you allow the thoughts to just continue to pop and you don't interrupt them, they can take you to a very, very dark place. And it's kind of like swirling, like down like the toilet, really. So one of the ways is really to be in a very present moment, being aware of the thoughts, because they slip in and you don't even know they're happening. So if a thought comes in that pops, you want to make sure, if it's a dangerous thought, if it's a lethal thought, if it's a self-destructive thought, you want to, even if you believe that thought, the thought that is lying to you, You want to shift and think a thought, even if you don't believe the good thought, think it to interrupt the process because it continues. So this is important. And also our emotions are chemical and we become addicted to the feelings that we do feel the most as well. So our bodies we will be drawn back to bad feelings in times of stress. And also when we've had a string of very, very good, pain-free days, what can happen is if you've mostly felt feelings that were painful, your body will actually try to draw you back in order to keep that baseline, in order to keep you in a negative state. So I just want to throw all of these things out to you to understand that this too shall pass. The moment will pass. Go to anyone, and it's very important to remember that. And also I want to say to anyone who's in this experience is let me be a bit of evidence to you. This is, you guys see me on podcasts, you see me on videos and the social media, and I'm real. I'm the way I am most places the same, but you don't see me when I'm in my room crying or on the really hard days, the weekends alone. And what I want you to, or the memories and the missing of my late husband. But what I want you to understand is that I am evidence of a life of a person who has taken a tragedy, and I am using my husband's love and his life and his death to do everything to make myself a better person and to help as many people as I can. So please, I ask that if each one of you who hears this, if you could share it with 3 to 5 people, any person that you think is hurting, who is a person who's grieving, or a person who would care enough and love enough to share with other people, and a person who could help others. I am asking you to please, as a favor to me, that you would share this episode with as many people as you can, and to honor Kevin's life, who's just incredible to have shared as much as he has today, and to come on during a hard time for himself. So love you guys. Bye. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.